Let me tell you, I was just outside topping off the hummingbird feeder that morning, the syrup catching the light like spun gold, when I glanced up and saw her. This woman striding across my gravel driveway like she owned the very ground beneath her. I mean, heels clicking, hair perfect, blazer sharp enough to cut glass. In one hand, a clipboard. In the other, a mug practically shouting I call the shots. I didn't need an introduction to know this was Vivian Caldwell, the HOA president who made it her personal mission to keep everyone's mailbox the same shade of dull. But that day, she wasn't here for neighborhood chit-chat. Without so much as a good morning, Vivian jabbed a finger at my log cabin, eyes narrowed like I'd personally offended her sense of order. "We've decided your cabin will host my daughter's wedding," she announced, all certainty and no warmth. "It'll be enchanting. You'll need to clear out by Thursday." I just stood there, hummingbird syrup in hand, wondering if I'd slipped into some alternate universe where my home was a free-for-all. Vivian flashed a smile, one of those bless your heart smiles that lands like a slap, before turning to a woman draped in measuring tape, barking out orders to repaint my porch something in ivory for the photos. And the wildest part? I still had no clue how they even got in. My gate was locked, or so I thought. Vivian kept tossing out lines like, "You're doing this for the good of the community," and "Just picture the photos, your rustic little hut, as a backdrop." The wedding planner, headset blinking like she was running mission control, started measuring my porch like she was pricing produce. Not once did anyone ask me if I agreed. Not one word about compensation, either. Just pure assumption, my land, their stage. Vivian started reading from some document, voice so stern you'd think she was laying down the law in court. "Per Article 9, subsection B," she intoned, but I cut her off. "Vivian, that rule applies to HOA properties. My cabin's on private land, outside your reach." She looked at me like I'd sprouted another head. "Surely you won't be the one to ruin a young woman's dream," she said, all quiver and guilt trip. I just shook my head. "No, Vivian, I won't be." That's when things got chilly. Vivian stepped in, perfume sharp as vinegar, and pressed a folder into my hands. Inside, floral arrangements, seating charts, photos of cakes shaped like tree stumps. Her vision for this enchanted wedding. All I could think about was how she expected me to vanish for the weekend, just hand over my cabin for a parade of strangers in stilettos. When she and her wedding planner finally marched off, I shut my door and let the anger fizz. My little haven in the woods, treated like a free Airbnb for the self-important. So, I called up my old friend Jake, a forestry guy a couple counties over. Jake's the kind who can identify every pine by scent and once trained his parrot to imitate a chainsaw. He laughed so hard at my story, he nearly dropped the phone. "Man, you should rent it to a chainsaw convention," he wheezed. "That'd teach her." That idea stuck with me. A quick search later, I stumbled on Timber Tribe, a regional group of chainsaw fanatics whose last venue burned down in a barbecue mishap. Their forum was chaos. All saw emojis and log carving tips. I posted a note about my place, and within minutes, booked. "We'll bring logs and trophies." Just like that, Vivian's vision of violins and lace was replaced by flannel, axes, and roaring chainsaws. The next morning, I hammered a sign onto my gate, "Private event scheduled. No trespassing." And in smaller letters, "Warning, high decibel machinery in use." I'd even secured a county noise exemption for educational forestry activities. Vivian's clipboard wasn't going to help her now. Thursday arrived, and the Timber Tribe showed up in style. Trucks with grizzly bear decals, folks in safety goggles, and plaid unloading gear like they were setting up a music festival. One guy started carving a wolf from a pine log before the engine even cooled. By mid-afternoon, Vivian's white SUV screeched to a halt. Her vanity plate said Queen. She stepped out, wedding planner in tow, and froze at the sight of a bearded man humming Ode to Joy while sharpening his chainsaw. "What is this circus?" she barked. "You refused a wedding, but greenlit this chainsaw madhouse." I smiled, handed her a lemonade, and pointed to my sign. "Private event. Permits in order. Safety crew on site." She gasped like a fish out of water. "This is sabotage." "No," I told her. "This is property rights. You tried to steamroll me. I just played smarter." She stomped back to her SUV, kicking gravel up on her own shoes. That night, the Timber Tribe threw a bonfire, swapping tall tales and carving the HOA newsletter into kindling. I leaned back, stars overhead, thinking this was the best thing that ever happened to my little cabin. Vivian wanted magic. She got chaos. Friday dawned calm, but you could feel the tension. The first chainsaw class kicked off, with Caleb, a mountain of a man in flamed sunglasses, teaching safe cuts. The crowd cheered as he sliced logs like they were cake. Then Vivian returned, this time with backup. Her daughter Elise, dressed for a wedding, and two stern-looking HOA board members, including Roger, who once fined me for having a green mailbox. Vivian filmed on her phone, muttering about noise pollution and criminal damage. She stormed toward me, heels stabbing the earth, demanding I shut this down and stop ruining her event. I pulled out my noise exemption, signed and sealed. Roger gave a helpless shrug. Elise stared at a bear sculpture and whispered, "That's actually pretty cool." Vivian snapped, "You are not admiring that." Elise just blinked, like maybe her mom wasn't as invincible as she thought. Vivian changed tactics. "You're blocking public paths." I showed her the survey from last year's land auction. Every inch was mine. She didn't want to see it. That afternoon, she called an emergency HOA meeting, waving flyers about violent disruptions. Caleb offered to carve her a beaver wielding a chainsaw. The meeting itself was a farce. Vivian railed about my malicious intent, but Tom, the treasurer, dropped a bombshell. Vivian's push to extend HOA control failed last year, and she'd forged some signatures on those notices. Someone filmed it, and by morning, the video went viral. Local Facebook groups howled. Vivian tries to chainsaw democracy. Her reputation crumbled. By Saturday, my place was a festival. Kids watched carvers. Neighbors sipped coffee at a log fuel bar. Chainsaws roared, the air thick with pine and oil. Vivian, in one last stand, arrived with a wedding crew, caterers, a harpist, even the florist. Elise looked miserable, dress splattered in mud. Vivian tried to set up tents on a patch of land I'd bought after the HOA defaulted on taxes. I showed her the deed. She was trespassing. "This is community event space," she snapped. "Check the transfer," I said. "Maybe you missed it while rewriting your bylaws." Her smile faded, and Elise looked like she wanted to vanish. That's when Deputy Harlan, a chainsaw fan himself, showed up, bacon skewer in hand. I handed him my paperwork. "Ma'am," he said, "clear out. This ain't your land." Vivian flushed, near tears, and ordered her crew to pack up. The harpist wheeled away. The florist dismantled the garlands. The chainsaw crew celebrated with a bonfire. Someone carved a life-sized eagle, named it Freedom of Saw, and placed it on my porch. By Sunday, the legendary carver Sawdust Sam finished a dragon sculpture that wrapped around my porch. He handed me the plaque, "To the true steward of the woods." Roger resigned, whispering that Vivian's days as president were numbered. The next day, an environmental inspector showed up to check on the noise complaint. My permits were perfect. Vivian, watching from her car, finally gave up and drove away. My neighbors brought cookies, and the HOA voted Vivian out in a landslide. She left her pearls on the table, a would-be queen without a crown, and moved away to some beigebox suburb. I hung a new sign, "Private property, chainsaws welcome. Weddings by written apology only." So, that's how my little cabin went from almost being a backdrop for Vivian's fairy tale to the legend of the Great Chainsaw Showdown. Tell me, if you were in my boots, would you have handled it the same way? Where do you draw the line between standing up for your rights and just giving in for the sake of peace? Drop your thoughts below, because honestly, sometimes standing your ground makes for the best stories.